IDS 402 final project for Thomas Cody Jones, the effect of casing on wellness. To begin, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Thomas Cody Jones. Right out of high school, I ended up doing 2 years of college studying Spanish. After that, I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do, so I left college and went into the workforce as a security guard for a couple of nightclubs. After that, I spent 6 years in the oil field pursuing a career in casing, which is going to be the main topic of the presentation today. And after I left the casing industry, I am now currently traveling the world studying creative writing as a digital nomad. So as we begin to dive into the presentation here, we will discuss what wellness actually is. A lot of people tend to confuse wellness with health. Wellness is actually the balance of many different aspects of your life. Things like your intellectual, emotional, physical, social, occupational, financial, environmental, and spiritual wellness. If you have a deficit in one area, it could end up having an impact on another area. It goes the same with a surplus. If you're working too hard to get that financial surplus, it could have an effect on your emotional, physical, or social sides of life as well. So making sure that you have a balance in all of the different areas is very important. When we take a look at the social side of wellness, there are many different aspects that influence the way that we view wellness in society. There's a lot of pressure from advertising to live your life a certain way, eat certain things, or purchase certain products. The government also releases information such as their ideas of what the best nutritional values are for your families, for your children. And then we also have pressures from our friends, family, and our social circles. If you are an individual that has a lower income, but you're spending time with people that have a higher income, oftentimes you may feel the pressure to spend more than you have. You may feel the pressure to spend time with them doing activities that are just out of the scope or range of your current financial capabilities. Here we can see an example of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Basically, this is one of the topics that we talked about in class. And essentially the bottom of the pyramid is the things that are necessary to sustain life. Things like food, water, warmth, rest. They're things that you can't go without and still survive. You move up on the pyramid, and as you go up, the things become less and less necessary for basic survival, but they do become very important. They are very important aspects of maintaining wellness in your life. By creating this hierarchy of needs, Maslow has essentially given people a basic outline or a basic guideline on what they need to do to improve the different areas of their life. I feel that wellness is oftentimes something that is overlooked in today's society. The different aspects people generally tend to associate with just health. The word wellness is something that people don't really equate to things like spiritual, intelligent, and social aspects of their lives. And so oftentimes people just associate wellness with health. And so there's been a huge push, especially in the United States, for the various trend diets like the Atkins diet, P90X, Weight Watchers, and things like that. And so there has been a focus on health or weight loss, but oftentimes the nutritional aspect of that, which is going to make a bigger impact on their wellness, is forgotten. There has also been a recent surge in interest in the various mental illness categories and the various things that we can do to help people with those mental illnesses. But I feel like at the same time, we're focusing so much on classifying everybody's problems into a various mental illness instead of finding ways that we can solve those problems or help people overcome those those barriers and issues. An example of that would be the ease with which everybody gets offended nowadays. For me, I feel like you can only be offended if you're going to allow yourself to be offended. If you don't care about the intentions or the opinions of anybody else, then it's not going to bother you. And so I feel like instead of trying to console people after they've become offended, I think that we need to focus more on teaching people not to become offended in the first place. I think that that would create a much bigger impact for personal wellness than trying to get people to stop being offensive. When we look at wellness as it pertains to the writing industry or creative writing, for example, I feel like wellness has always been something that's been sacrificed for the art. Many of the greatest writers in history have had drastic or very severe substance abuse issues. They were not faithful to their spouses or didn't have spouses. Many of them suffered from depression. But I think that pain, that imbalance in wellness is what helps them create better art or better writing. It's something that fuels that pain, that suffering, that depression, that sadness is something that helps them create such amazing pieces of work. Without that emotion, without that passion or that sentiment, I feel like oftentimes the writing can become very stale or sterile, very clean and very boring or empty. I know that for myself personally, when I write something completely sober, it's okay. It's a mediocre piece. It's something that I can work on over a period of time. But if I have a couple of drinks, if I get to a point where my emotions have been elevated due to the alcohol, for example, I tend to find that the next day when I read whatever I've written, it has more meaning, it has more sentiment and power and emotion and feeling than before. And so while it's not necessarily good for my overall wellness because of the impact that the alcohol or the substance that you've taken has on your health, it's precisely that imbalance in wellness that is generating and giving fuel for the art. So going back to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there are positives and negatives in that model. So some of the positives, as I said before, is it does provide us structure. It provides a plan, a basic method for or guide for wellness. It gives an individual a path to take, things to focus on to incrementally increase their wellness or their well-being. But that's not always the best path for everybody to take. It's a good default plan, but at the same time, everybody's situation is going to be unique. And so if we look at the pyramid again, the food, warmth, water, and rest are your basic physiological needs. Those are the things that you need to survive. But oftentimes things like rest can be sacrificed so that you can ensure the safety and security of your children, for example. Sometimes you need to work multiple jobs and sacrifice that rest so that you can provide food, work 2 jobs, put food on the table. Sometimes you have to sacrifice safety so that you can make enough money to provide those same basic needs for your children. You sacrifice intimate relationships and friends sometimes so that you can acquire more prestige or feelings of accomplishment in your occupation. So while this is a very good framework or a basic outline as to how you should live your life and the things that you should focus on, I think that there needs to be balance with this, just as we discussed balance with wellness and the various aspects of wellness in your life as well.